All right, so I want to talk about this then. Having seen all of the Transformers films, what would your ranking of these movies be, number 1 to number 4? Like, what is your number 1 Transformers movie?
The first one.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I haven't seen 4, but for me, the first one is like head and
I would
shoulders.
say, look, I enjoyed the first Transformers. I think it's a fun movie. There was nobody else at that time that I think would have been able to do a Transformers movie as well as Michael Bay did. The problem has become that they've just gotten bigger and louder and dumber and less funny and less charming as a result. And which, you know, a lot of that happens with any franchise. But I think it's Eric Goldman had actually pointed out, like, these movies really have become Michael Bay lapsing deep into self-parody. And I think it's true, like, especially in the fourth one. So I would rank it as Transformers 1. I'm torn because there's a lot that about Transformers 3 that I thought worked more than didn't. But then, you know, Transformers 4 kind of had some interesting ideas. But I would probably go 1, 3, 4, 2.
I would go 1, 4. Whoa. And the reason 4, like I said, it's a really mixed bag because it does have some of the worst elements, which again, I cannot emphasize how long it is, which is the thing that I think ultimately kills the movie. Yeah. But it's got some cool and different ideas, and it actually handles, I think, the Transformers themselves in a more interesting way than we've seen a lot of previously. So I would go 1, 4, 3, and then 2 is like...
2 is just,
I think everyone agrees.
So bloated.
Although Goldman was saying that this is worse than 2.
And I think there will be people that think that, but to me, I'm like, man, at least you're being... It does not have...
There's not a robot scrotum in this one.
It doesn't have the horrible abrasive humor. It has some of it, but not as much as 2. It doesn't have, you know, some of the most offensive stuff that 2 had. And it does handle the robots themselves, I think, in a better way. So I don't agree with him, but I think there will be people that do hate this one even more.
I have to say, from the marketing, I was way more excited to see this one than either 2 or 3, based on, like, Dinobots and some of the other cool stuff. And, like, from what you're saying, like, I actually want to see what Lockdown's about. But really what it sounds like, and I think we all agree on this, it would be really nice if we could get a Transformers movie that was about 100 minutes long, that cut out, like, all the, like, useless bad humor, and then just concentrated on the robot-human relationships.
Yeah,
because you could make that a family movie.
The government kind of stuff too. Like, can we leave all the Washington D.C. characters out and just?
It just gets so, but not only that, it just gets so bloated, even in terms of, like, look, I get that he was like, oh, it's a father trying to protect his daughter, but Michael Bay doesn't really know how to do that relationship. And I see that relationship. If I see that relationship, I want to see it on Man and Fire and Taken. Like, hardcore, I'm going to kill everyone. I'm protecting my daughter.
Hopefully that will be Transformers 5.
You know what I mean?
Which
but
then will surpass the first one.
But this one just gets so silly where he's like, honey, will you please wear some clothes? Meanwhile, the camera's like shooting like up,
right up her hiney.
Yeah. And you're like,
did you say hiney?
Heine.
Well, I thought we weren't supposed to.
Tiny.
Yeah.
Trying to clean it up.
So, all right. So that's our ranking of the Transformers movies. We pretty much all agree the first one is the best one.
For sure.
I mean, what makes that the gold standard?
For me, I think the first one had, like, those... Since you hadn't seen it before, it had that, like, almost... I mean, this is sacrilegious. A little bit of a Jurassic Park moment. The first time you saw Optimus transform, you were like, wow, like, they did that, and I'm seeing this Transformers thing happen on screen. And it's like, you take that moment out of the equation, I still think that movie is better than anything that I've seen.
And it had kind of a central thrust and relationship that the other movies haven't quite been able to do again, which was a boy in his car, his first car, which made it relatable, and the Megan Fox factor, which was, you know, nobody had ever seen her before. It's like, who's this hot girl? But also, like, their chemistry and the sort of the idea of the nerd getting the girl,
and I think
played out better than it did it's a trope, but it played out better in that movie than it did in other ones.
He's also, I mean, listen, people give him a lot of heat, and people in these comments are going to give him a lot of heat, but he did with Shia. He popped in those movies. He was charming. You believed, because he really was giving it everything that he had. You believed he loved Bumblebee. You believed he was talking to Optimus, who was like a father figure to him. You believed all that. Yeah. And I feel like that's a hard thing to pull off. These kids can't quite pull it off.
Oh, no.
And he could, and I think it was just a simpler story, you know?
I feel like if that movie lost the John Turturro character and lost a lot of the stuff with the parents, it would be a much better movie. Like, it would actually be a very good movie, I think.
It's still he hadn't really figured out how to do action. The thing that 3D has done for Michael Bay has slowed him down, and it's so, like, the action sequences are too much, but some of them have nice little effective moments where you can really see what's happening, and you can see who's fighting who when the robots are fighting.
Yeah.